Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 215. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there. You'll get notified when we go live, so you join in the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching or listening to this, if you drop a follow or a sub, whatever it is, it may seem small, but it does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, we're jumping into kind of two different topics. We're going to be talking some video games. We're going to be talking some wrestling music. So let's jump on into our first topic. Let's talk about a game that we played not too long ago for a few hours during one of our streams. I wanted to talk about Lies of P. So, if you guys don't know what Lies of P is a Souls-like action role-playing video game developed by NeoWiz Games and Round 8 Studio, and published by NeoWiz as well. This is indie title inspired by your Souls-like, your Bloodborne, your Elden Ring, your Dark Souls, stuff like that, but is inspired and built also in the Pinocchio, I don't know if Pinocchio universe is the right term, but the story of Pinocchio. So you're taking your character, Pinocchio, and you are going around the city of Krat and trying to figure out what has happened with the puppets in the area. It used to be almost this utopia where people were thriving, they were gaining their riches and having a grand old time, and they had built and manufactured these puppets to essentially work for them, touchy subject, but to be police force, to be their butlers, servants, whatever it was. And this disease, it seems like it's a twofold thing, where there was this disease that has spread amongst the people that is infecting them, as well as the puppets malfunctioning, causing them to revolt and go against their human owners. It seems like it's, granted in gameplay, it is taking the aspects of gameplay from the Souls-like genre, where you're going around, fighting the different enemies, traveling this immerse and elaborate world of Krat, and then you will eventually get to big bosses and have these big showdowns and whatnot. They take elements of that, and then they also kind of implement different elements of stories, especially, I'm blanking on the movie, iRobot, where the puppets initially had like these different rules that they were following, and it's trying to figure out the mystery of what caused this. I don't know if you're going to try and find out the cause of the disease, but you're certainly going to try and find out what happens with the puppets here. So from Wikipedia, I'm just going to read the gameplay here. Lies of P is played from a third-person perspective. A player controls a humanoid Pinocchio and travels on foot through the city of Krat, exploring the environment and fighting various biomechanical enemies. Pinocchio uses an arsenal of weapons such as swords and axes against his enemies and can dodge and block their blows. The game also includes Fable Arts, a gauge that can be filled by dealing damage or perfectly blocking, which once it's filled can be used to deal high damage or temporarily give the player passive abilities. Pinocchio has a mechanical arm called the Legion Arm that can be equipped with gadgets such as a grappling hook to lure enemies or a flamethrower. The Legion Arm can be used to restore the durability of the player's weapons and also gives it special ability for a short time, such as acid damage or guaranteed perfect blocks. There's weapon crafting in there that they have as well. And yeah, it says it's a Souls-like compared to Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with it when I was delved into it. We played about a little short of 3 hours and got through 2 of the bosses. You had your initial Parade Master, along with the Donkey Man was the second one that I just took care of. And with you trying to figure out what's going on, we haven't found out a lot of information just yet, but we have some different allies. Sophia is the one who woke us up and allows us to level up and get more power. Geppetto we had just saved from this donkey man who had trapped him in a carriage, along with a few other allies. There's this woman, Antonia, who works at Hotel Krat, or rather owns it, and Eugenia, I don't know how to say her name, I do apologize, what seems like your blacksmith, I guess you could say, or just a way to improve your abilities and help you out with your Legion arm. I had a good time with it. Souls-like games have never been particularly like my most favorite genre of game, but they're always games that I really appreciate and want to be better at just because of their world building, their story lore that they have in there, and seeing the amazing like set pieces and enemies that you have to fight. Like, it's really impressive that they can do that. And I've dipped my toes in it here or there. I haven't beaten any of them, but like trying out Bloodborne, Sekiro I got, I'd say, decently far into, and that's probably the one I've made the most progress in. Trying out Elden Ring, and now trying out this one. I felt like this one went very well for me. There was definitely times, obviously, dying, part of the game. You learn from what you did. Maybe you got to dodge the attack this way. Maybe you got to be more aggressive, less aggressive, whatever it is. It's part of the gameplay, similar to the roguelites and roguelikes that we play, is that trial and error, figure out what's going on, get better at it, and jump back in there. This one, I don't feel like I struggled with all that much, and I don't mean to say like it's lesser than the other ones, but it might be a little bit more user friendly. Now granted, this is still early. I could probably jump back into it, and I'm gonna get my ass whooped later on a lot more than I did today, or that day in the stream. We'll have to see. I think the first boss took me maybe 5 tries after almost doing it the first time and then struggling afterwards. And then Donkey Man took me 2 tries, maybe. Granted, like I said, it's early bosses. It might not be that quote-unquote skill checkpoint that apparently Souls games have, where that first boss is like, okay, here you go. If you can beat this, then you're ready. If not, you got to keep going. Kind of test your metal point of view, or point of no return. So I really enjoyed it. There was a couple of moments where a few of the gameplay elements didn't make a lot of sense, or weren't super clear of like, what is this item for? What is this item going to do? So I feel like that could have been explained a little bit better. But in terms of gameplay, first off, beautiful, absolutely beautiful looking game. The amount of detail in each of the characters, from the puppets themselves to Pinocchio, with just the simple aspect of like whether blood or oil gets on your clothes, seeing it spread, seeing it dissipate with the rain. Like if he's wearing a white shirt, seeing the puffy white shirt go from dry to wet and see that wetness go through the shirt. Very impressive, and I felt like never had anything that chugged along. There's a little bit of pop in here or there, but to have, from what I believe, the indie developers, NeoWiz and Round 8, like to have this come from an indie studio, awesome. I'm curious how long it took them to assemble this and put it together. That might be some research I'd have to look into, but they did a fantastic job. Now, it seems like this game has done very, very well. I know they had some DLC in there. Based on this Wikipedia article, there's a sequel that's been announced, so hey, congrats to them. I don't know where the story's going to go from here. I'm intrigued to continue diving into it. Apparently it goes places, quote unquote. So interested to see the kind of twists and turns that this story will take as we venture on into Krat, and just see the world that the studios have built here. I'm intrigued also of like the human aspect. So obviously with the Donkey Man, he's kind of out there. He's mad at the puppets and how this has gone awry. I'm curious what the balance is going to be of like the human enemies and the puppet enemies. Like, are they going to be balanced? Is it going to be more of the puppet enemies that we're taking care of? As the humans seemingly have been wiped out pretty hard, or at least attacked. I'm interested to see how that goes, because not anything against human enemies, but the robots, the puppets are a little bit more cooler to look at and way more intricate. Donkey Man just literally had a mask on and a big ass sword. And I'm like, okay. So interested to see more of that enemy design, of the puppets. I know we have a big like police officer one I remember from the early trailers, that we'll eventually run into, and he looked pretty cool and exciting. So yeah, interested to see the scale of these enemies, see what they look like, see what kind of, attack patterns they have and whatnot, see what that obstacle is going to be like. But yeah, lot of elements obviously we need to dive further into, with like, how does it work? How do the different weapons work out? How does the assembly work out? What should I do with fucking Gemini? Like, what's his backstory? How's that gonna further grow over time? And what does he really bring to the table, if anything? So excited to dive more into this. This is one we just dipped our toes into recently, but it's eventually on our stream kind of like backlog wheel. So I'm excited when that does pop up. If I don't, like, I'm gonna shove this in here, take executive command. We'll see. Jump into it, see what else this game has to offer, and see how, like I said, not welcoming, but like, does it spike up in difficulty? Have I just been kind of handheld this so far, and then it's going to be like, haha, you thought, and turn up that difficulty? We'll see. As long as it's fun and rewarding, the dying doesn't matter as much. It's when it gets to that frustrating level, it's like, ugh. It's a tough balance to play. And I know that's a whole discussion with the whole Souls-like genre. Like, you get that rewarding feeling of like, yeah, I killed that boss. But you want it to be challenging without diminishing the player's investment or excitement to continue to explore your game. And it's a delicate balance that these games need to strike. So to have a different studio doing that and trying that, I'm curious if they struck that balance potentially a little bit better than the From Software folks, which nothing against them. I know obviously just it happens. I've seen it happen with myself, and I've seen it happen with others. Intrigued to see how that balance strikes. And I know there's a lot of other studios out there that are doing it. I know a few months ago at this point, but the Deathbound guys, I know they're doing their attempt at this type of game and this genre, and I know there's plenty of other indie titles out there that are doing it. I think Crystala is another big name one I remember from PAX East that's similar gameplay style with the Souls-like genre. So it's cool to see other other studios exploring this, and obviously you see the clear inspiration, but making it their own thing and telling these cool stories with these elements that they're bringing to the table. Obviously Pinocchio, I remember when this game was first announced, I'm like, that seems stupid, but it's really delivered, and obviously people have agreed with that. Apparently 1 million units sold October 2023, so that's insane. Good for them. So yeah, looking forward to more. What do you guys think of Lies of P? Let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, excited to more of this crazy game. All right, let's jump over to topic 2. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about WWE music, because there's been a little bit of, well, not recently, but also recently, like over time, there's been all this hullabaloo about WWE music nowadays, and like, oh, Def Rebel's ruining stuff, and it's not that great. And to an extent, I agree, and to another level, I'm like, I don't know if it's that bad. We're going to be on the negative side of history today, at least for the opening part. Talk about WWE themes and kind of bitch and moan a little bit about like, why are we changing good things when they don't need to be? So there's a few themes recently, as I've watched week to week, which I've heard different adaptations or changes to, and I'm like, I don't understand why this is happening. And the most particular case I can think of is NXT call-ups. Whether, we got the draft coming up, probably, once this episode releases, that would have been all over and done with. But with either people getting called up during the drafts, or you do Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce doing these contract call-ups for these superstars, like a Tiffany Stratton, like a Braun Breaker, I guess a Carmelo Hayes, technically, he's kind of been that in-betweener. For some reason, music gets changed, and it's like, what are we doing here? Now, when Vince was still there, and I hate to bring his name up, but when he was doing the main roster stuff and Triple H was kind of doing the NXT stuff, it made a little bit more sense. Vince doesn't, to my knowledge, didn't really watch the NXT stuff and didn't really keep in touch with it all that much. He's just like, I need so-and-so. All right, cool, we'll go. It seems like there wasn't a lot of synergy there. And now it seems like it is there. You get a lot of crossover between the brands. Obviously, Shawn Michaels running NXT now, Triple H running the main shows. It seems like there would be more elements of synergy, and we've seen it here and there. And to have these people come up to the main roster, have their momentum, have these characters set in place, these music, these themes behind them, they're like, oh, people know who this is when this theme hits. To have them change it when they come to the main roster has been very confusing to me. Now, I know you're probably like, well, Braun Breaker's theme isn't that much different. No, but it's different enough, and it's like, why? Why are we trying to hit the reset button? Why not just try and keep that momentum from what these people were doing in NXT, gaining their popularity to go there? Like, I want you to think about this. If you watch NXT, think of Trick, right? Trick Williams. He's got that solid bass tone song with him, and now the NXT audience has made this chant with it of whoop that trick, as his theme is coming out, or as he's coming out to that theme. Think about if they modify that slightly and don't keep that bass hit, the rhythm, whatever it is for some reason. You're just taking what you already had with Trick and you're like, nah, let's do something different. Let's shake it up so people can know even less of him and not recognize that. And then the more, I hate to say it, casual, just like I tune in to the main roster, just the pay-per-views. I don't know the NXT guys because that just never rung my bell or really made me interested. It's one of those things where the hardcore people who watch everything, or a decent chunk of everything, they should be the ones to facilitate the energy to the people who don't know so-and-so and be like, oh, this person's important. Perfect example. WrestleMania weekend, right? You have people show up on the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania. It's a big thing we've kind of made in the fan thing of like, oh, this is going to be fun. People show up, call-ups, blah, blah, blah. Those are typically your hardcore, the hardcores, because it's the layover fans from WrestleMania that are still in town. They're going to go to the show, and they are from all over the world, right? So you get that separate energy of like, they don't get to see a show all that often. It's this big combination and amalgamation of fans that are really hyped and from the weekend and hyped for the show, and they're typically your hardcores. I don't know if a casual wrestling fan would fly from real far away over to the States to see the show. Now, granted, you might, and if you do, no worries there. Enjoy your time. Do your thing. But typically, these are the people who watch everything. So when they see an Ilya Dragunov show up on Monday Night Raw, they're like, oh my God, this is happening. They're excited. And then anybody else on the show, or anyone else at the show who doesn't know who that person is, they're like, oh, well, this person's reacting, or a lot of people are reacting. This person must be a big deal. Think about it with Royal Rumbles too. Those are hardcore people too. You get the fun, exciting entrances with the countdown. And then you're like, oh, well, I don't know this AJ Styles guy, but everybody's like freaking out that he's showing out number 3. Oh, he must be a big deal. Even if you didn't watch TNA, you didn't watch New Japan, because there are fans that do that. They're just like, nope, WWE is my lane. Totally fair. There's a lot of WWE content to watch on its own too. So, it's hard. It's hard to keep up with that stuff. Why would you try and do other stuff? If you do watch other things, fantastic too. But with the theme music, that's like your base element of instant recognition. I think we talked about this in the Royal Rumble discussion. I know that's been a discussion for the while now. Is it gets hard at points to be like, who's coming out to the ring right now? Because some of the music is just so generic that you can even see it in the Titantrons. They just have to put their name there and not be Titantrons of old of like, oh, this is them catching their finisher here, or this is them hitting this move, or dancing around, or doing whatever. It's just like Piper Niven, Tegan Knox, Asuka, like whoever it is. It's just name. So people can go, I don't know who this is. Look, oh, it's so-and-so. Now I can be excited. It shouldn't be that way. We should think of themes like as this big excitement filler. And not to say that there aren't themes still out there, but that's the point. Think of a Cody Rhodes. Think of a Seth Rollins. Think of a Roman Reigns. Think of Jey Uso. Think of Becky Lynch. Think of Rhea. You hear a note or two, instantly you know, oh my God, it's so-and-so. Let's get hype. Let's boo the crap out of them. Whatever it is. They've had a lot of hits, recently. I'm not trying to say everything's ass, but there's some that are just like, what? And maybe it's based on push. Maybe it's just like how frequently we see these people, or it's like, I don't recognize this theme because I don't see you all that often. But from a call-up perspective, those slight adjustments I feel like are working against them. Tiffany is a big one. I think that was a big change when she came to the main roster. I don't know if they've swapped it back. Johnny Gargano's was a weird one. I think the DIY theme works now, but just to have a whole new singer and like format for his song, why not keep it his old NXT Black and Gold one? I don't know. Once again, not trying to be like, oh, you can never do new music. No. If they're changing characters, they're doing a different role, whatever it is. Like, I think the new AJ Styles one, even though I've only heard it a handful of times, I think that one works for his new character. Like, it's still recognizable, has that similar beat to his old one, but it's different because he's a bad guy. That's fine. You're establishing a new song. It's not establishing a new person. So I don't know. It's this weird balance of do new themes, but do them when they matter, when they mean something. And I guess you could be like, well, Bret, it's a transition period. They're coming up from NXT, the developmental, so it is that transition period for them to get new song. That's fair. But it doesn't help that superstar, that wrestler, quote unquote, get over, brother, because everything's new. You should have it where theme song hits, people instantly recognize, and then get excited. It shouldn't be this dial-up internet, thinking process of like, what's going on? Oh, we're connected to the internet. Yeah, you should get out of that. It's not the glass breaks for Steve Austin. You're like, what? Immediately. The Rock, you knew immediately. Triple H, you knew immediately. Shawn Michaels, you knew immediately. Whoever it is, it should be that instant recognition, especially for these new people. You want to make it as recognizable as across the board as people who know who they are, to help facilitate to the others who don't know who they are, hey, this is someone to watch. It shouldn't be reset, get down to the bottom of the mountain, have everybody climb together. It should be somebody assisting somebody. Let's pull you up here together. Get hype. Obviously, it just takes a few seconds with the new music. It's not the end of the world of like, I have no idea who Tiffany is. She sucks. It's not that. It's just, why not help yourself? Why make it more difficult? Why go against the grain? That's just my thing. So, I don't know. TED Talk over. Music is music. Def Rebel is not the evil that everybody claims for them to be. It's just, some of them suck. Some of them don't suck. That's all. Just doesn't click for everybody. Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast. Short, sweet, to the point. In, out, see ya, goodbye. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode today, talking about Liza P, talking about the WWE music. It's been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. You can catch the podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there. You'll get notified when we go live. So you join on the fun and conversation with us. But if you can't catch it live, no worries. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week, where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, wherever you're watching or listening, if you could drop a follow, drop a sub, it would help us out. It does seem small, but does help the channel grow. So if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Appreciate you guys hanging out today with me, giving this a watch, giving it a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.